Welcome back everyone. Sorry for this long delay in uploading the game. To compensate, I will show you a game that will make your day. The Linares Super GM 1994 tournament was quite possibly one of the strongest events of the entire 20th century. Anatoli Karpov won the tournament scoring 11 out of 13. In round 4, Karpov as white played against Veselin Topalov. This game was an excellent example of Karpov's genius and got dubbed as Karpov's Immortal. Let's see this game. The game started with Karpov playing d4, knight f6, c4, c5, knight f3, c into d4, knight into d4, e6, g3, knight c6. Now this is an English opening symmetrical form, two knights variation. Game continued with Karpov playing bishop g2. Topalov played bishop c5 attacking the knight over here. Knight goes to b3 attacking the bishop. Bishop comes to e7. Knight c3, a developmental move. Black castles kingside, white castle kingside, and black plays d6. Now another strategy could have been to directly attack the center with d5 push, which leads to a very active position. For example, instead of d6, if you play d5, you get c into d5, e into d5, queen goes to c2, queen b6, rook will come to d1, rook d8, bishop f4, bishop e6, knight a4 attacking the queen. Queen will have to come to b5, knight c3 again attacking the queen. Queen goes back to b6, e3, rook a c8 lining up the rook against queen over here. Queen e2 coming out of that line. Bishop g4 attacking the queen. And this is a very dynamic position with some active play for both the camps. Anyways, let's get back to our game where black played d6. The game continued with white playing bishop f4. Knight comes to h5 attacking this bishop. Karpov maintains the bishop at f4 and plays e3. Black goes ahead and captures the bishop at f4, e into f4, bishop d7. Now this bishop d7 is actually a bit passive move. In fact, over here e5 was better. For example, instead of bishop d7, you play e5. The game will continue as f takes e5, d takes e5, queen can go to h5, bishop will come to e6, knight d5 attacking the bishop, g6 attacking the queen, queen e2, rook e8, rook a d1 lining up the rook against the queen, bishop f8, removing the bishop from the knight's attack. Knight comes to c3, queen c7, h4, rook a c8, and this again is quite a dynamic position, good for both the sides. But in this position, Topalov went ahead and played bishop d7, which according to me is a bit passive move. Anyways, the game continued with Karpov playing queen d2. The idea is that he will bring this rook at d1 and kind of try controlling this d file. Queen goes to b8. Now black's idea is to bring this rook at the d8 position. Although this is actually a kind of a strange move, but it's okay plan. I don't see anything wrong with this particular plan. The game continued with white playing rook f e1. Now watch how Karpov builds up chess basics. There are two semi-open files and Karpov smoothly activates his major pieces along these files. Now these two semi-open files will play a critical role in this game soon. Alright, let's see how black played. Black here played g6. Now this is another passive move. This does no harm, but again this is too passive move and does nothing to increase black's activity. There is no real need for playing g6 in this position. Anyways, white continued with playing h4, planning some kingside attack. Black played a6. White continued with h5. Black continued with b5. H into g6. H into g6. Knight c5. Now, white's knight looks really active. Black's light squared bishop is weak. So it seems that Karpov is offering an active piece for a passive one. You see, if d captures the c5, the queen will capture the d7 bishop, right? But why would Karpov offer his active piece against something which is passive? It's actually a trap. Okay, it's a decisive trap, and unfortunately Topalov falls for this trap and accepts this knight at c5. Okay, here actually the best move would have been queen a7, but Topalov just moves on and falls into Karpov's trap. I'm sure it's very difficult to understand what this trap is, so just carry on with this game, watching this game, and see how the trap unfolds. Okay, so the first part of this trap is actually to take complete control of the d file, which happens when queen captures this bishop at d7. So you see the d file domination is complete now. Here comes rook c8. The idea is that queen is attacking this knight, so now rook is going to protect this knight over here, and this is a decisive position in the game. Karpov's trap is getting unfolded, and I want you to take a pause in this position and try to guess what was Karpov's next move. Take 5 seconds. Ready? Alright, so in this position, Karpov played rook into e6. Did you find this move? Here is actually a rook sacrifice which cannot really be accepted, and white now not only controls this d file but also controls the e file. Alright, in this position Topalov played rook a7. Now I told you that when Karpov captured this rook at e6, this rook cannot be taken. Okay, let's see what happens if black accepts this rook at e6. It will be actually game over. Let's see. F into e6, queen into e6 check, king goes to g7, bishop into c6. Okay, so against a rook you got one pawn and you got one knight. Now see how the game proceeds. Rook a7, protecting this bishop now, because the protection to this bishop was actually the knight here. Bishop e4. Now the threat is that queen is going to grab this g6 pawn. Bishop f6, cutting the lines, cutting the communication of this queen to g6. Queen g4, reinitiating this communication. King f8, trying to run away from this attack. Anyways, the queen attacks and grabs this pawn at g6. Now two pawns and knight against a rook. Bishop g7. The idea is again to block all attacks along the g file. Bishop d5, strengthening this diagonal and limiting king's movements. Rook e8, trying to prevent this rook e1 over here. Now comes queen f5 check. Now see, black doesn't have a lot of squares to go. This is the only square which is left. Okay, so king e7. Now comes bishop f7. The idea is to bring this queen to the e6 square. Bishop into c3, b into c3, rook f8, kind of pinning this bishop out here, not really helpful. Queen e6 check, king d8. Here comes the rook into picture. Rook d1 check, king c7, rook d7 check, king c8, rook into a7, discovered check, king d8, and here comes queen d7 checkmate. And hence black does not accept the rook sacrifice in this position, and he plays rook a7. Okay. All right. Now again, in this situation, if you are white, what would you do as the next move? What will be your move? Take 5 seconds more and try to guess what was Karpov's next brilliant move. Ready? I think it was an easy guess right now. It was rook into g6 check. Okay. Black played f into g6. Now this sacrifice you cannot really avoid. You have to take f into g6. So let's see, if you do not accept this sacrifice, then what happens? Okay. So for example, let's say king goes to f8, then you have queen h3. Now these two files are completely under control, and there is an imminent checkmate which is coming now. So f into g6 is kind of forced. Here comes queen h8 check, king goes to f7, the f7, and here there is bishop d5 checkmate. Okay, so rook into g6 check, f into g6 is kind of forced, or else there is checkmate. Okay, now let's see how the game continued with f into g6. White played queen e6 check, king goes to g7, bishop into c6, rook d8, c into b5, bishop f6, knight e4. Now here is the attack. Queen and knight both are attacking this bishop. Something has to be done here. So bishop comes to d4, b into pawn a6, queen comes to b6, rook d1, queen into a6. Now this is another important juncture of this game. If you are white, how will you continue? Again, take 5 seconds. Ready? Now Karpov once again went for a very attacking continuation in this position and sacrificed some more material. He played rook into d4. Okay, so Topalov played rook into d4, and here comes queen f6 check. King goes to g8, queen into g6 check, king f8, queen e8 check, king g7, queen e5 check, king g8, knight f6 check, king f7, bishop e8 check, king f8, queen into c5 check. Just see how this rook and the queen over here are just standing uselessly without contributing anything to the defense out here. That's the beauty of the position. Queen d6 is right now a literally forced move, and black must give up some material. For example, if black tries to protect the material and does not bring the queen to d6, so for example, if you play rook d6, then white will play knight e4. Let's say queen b6, you will have queen into d6 check, queen into d6, knight into d6, and look at the position. This is extremely easy win for white. You have got 5 pawns. You have got 2 minor pieces against just 1 rook. So this is extremely easy win for white. Okay. So in this position, queen c5 check, queen d6 is literally forced. Okay. Here comes queen into a7. Black plays queen into f6. Now, there is in this position, it still looks quite hopeless for black because although it looks to be an exchange up, but you have got these all passed pawns, which makes black's position completely lost. Anyways, the game continued with bishop h5, rook went to d2. Idea is to capture some pawns out here. b3, rook b2, king g2, and there is not much black can do over here. And in this position, Veselin Topalov resigned. Okay. For example, the game might continue as queen c6 check. You have bishop f3, and then you have queen d6, and there is nothing much. You have queen a8 check, let's say, king e7, queen b7 check, king e8, queen b5 check, king d8, queen g5 check, king e8, queen h5 check, king d7, queen h7 check, king e8. Remember, you cannot play over here king e6. For example, if you play king e6, then you will have queen h6 check, king e7, queen g7, and the rook goes out of the game and it's complete game over. Okay, so again, going back to the position, queen h7 check, king e8, you have queen h8 check, king d7, queen into b2, and again it's a similar situation where black's position is hopeless. Okay, so this is Karpov's Immortal game. I hope you liked this video. It's a wonderful game, lots to learn. Karpov was a brilliant player and his games are extremely important for learning about middle game as well as end game. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching this video. Bye bye.